Pen and ink practice number 4. This is another practice that is inspired by the pen and ink drawing workbook by Alfonso Dunn. So if you'd like more practices by him, he has his own YouTube channel and offers a lot of different practices. For today's practice, we are going to be drawing 6 boxes across. I will make each of mine a 1/2 inch big and 8 boxes going down. We are doing a value scale for the different types of strokes that we learned in an earlier practice. So each box will coordinate with a 6-part value scale that would go with each different stroke. So we'll have like 6 boxes that would go with hatching and then 6 boxes that would go with cross hatching. So let's quickly get these boxes set up and then we can get on to our practice. And of course, you know that I like to label it at the top that this is a pen and ink practice number 4, and that the practice is value scale. It's a 6-part value scale. And then I like to always put the date. Along the left-hand side, we're going to label hatching, cross hatching, uneven hatching, curved hatching, scribbling, stippling, flowing lines, and the last one is just going to be a free practice. Any of those that were difficult for you is what you should do in these boxes. So we're going to get started here with the regular hatching, and as you know from our practice number 2, regular hatching is just little lines. Oh, and I almost forgot to do my highlighter trick. I like doing the highlighter trick so that I can keep track of what box I should be in. So how I will teach this value scale is you go through and you put the stroke in the box, each of those boxes except for the last one. So 5 of the boxes you put the stroke in of an even amount, and then you go back and you add a second layer to boxes that should be darker, and then go back into the ones that should be even darker, a third layer, and so on and so forth. Do not go back and build value right away. So you just put an even amount of hatching in each box going across except for the last one. So we have 6 boxes across. So you will build the hatching in 5 of the 6 boxes. The 6th box will be reserved for the lightest value. Now in the next to the lightest value, you might want to make your hatching marks slightly farther apart so that it is clearly obvious that it is the lightest of the hatching then. So you do not put anything in that last box. I'm numbering them so that it's a little bit easier for me to refer to them. So number 1 is going to be our lightest and number 6 will be our darkest. My camera cut out at this point, so you do not get to see me build the value in the hatching section, but we'll move straight on to cross hatching, and I'm sure you'll get the idea of how I did this. So I'm going through and I'm putting cross hatching right now all the way across, and actually I'm just starting with hatching because that would be my first layer of cross hatching. So like I said, you're going to put your first layer all the way across up till box 2. You leave box 1 white to show the lightest value. You're putting hatching right now all the way across over to box 2. Then you put a layer of cross hatching in 2, and you go ahead and you put a layer of cross hatching all the way back across till you get to 6. Once I get to 6, I'm going to start back at 3 so that 3 will be darker than 2. So I add another layer of cross hatching, going a different direction with my lines, and I do that same thing in 4, 5, and 6. Now we're moving on to 4. We're going to start with 4 now that 3 is darker than 2, and we're going to put another layer of cross hatching with our lines going a different direction, and we're going to add that to 4, 5, and 6. You may feel like an exercise like this of doing a value scale is not worthwhile, but I do want to tell you that doing an exercise like this helps you learn how to do shading in pen and ink. So it is very important to practice by doing a value scale whenever you're starting with a new medium like pen and ink. Now, 2 is darker than 1, 3 is darker than 2, and 4 is darker than 3. So our next step is we need to put another layer in 5, so 5 would be darker than 4. And we do that same layer again in 6. So that will conclude it for our cross-hatching section. You can see how each box is progressively darker than the box next to it. We will start on our uneven hatching. So uneven hatching just means you don't have to put these in perfect little rows. You kind of do the hatching all over that box, and this can represent lots of different things, but it would be for a little bit less of a nice smooth surface whenever you're using this. This would be a little bit more of a rougher surface that you might use this type of shading on. So you start just putting your uneven hatching the whole way across in every box, about the same amount, except for 2 you might want to do it slightly farther apart with your hatching. Now we want 3 to be darker than 2, so we go through and put another layer of uneven hatching in 3, and we'll add that same layer to 4, 5, and 6. We will continue adding layers in this fashion until we have 6 as the darkest, and then 5 darker than 4, 4 darker than 3, 3 darker than 2, and 2 is obviously darker than that blank 1. That is our lightest value. Our next area is curved hatching, so it's kind of like little parentheses, and you again just lay down that first layer of little parentheses the whole way across until you get to box 2. Then we add another layer of those little parenthesis type curved hatching in 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we add the curved hatching in 4, 5, and 6. And then we will continue. Once we do 4, 5, and 6, we'll do 5 and 6, and then 6. So again, I just want to emphasize the importance of this exercise. Doing a value scale is one of the most invaluable exercises you could do. With pen and ink drawing, it will help you to learn not only the basic strokes, but the challenges of those strokes and what variations you would have to make in order to have adjustments with each different stroke so that you can build up the values. So doing this is really going to help your drawing be incredible later. I'm sure by now you're getting the idea of how to do this. You lay down your first layer of strokes all the way over to 2. Then you start going back across and adding a second layer in 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then a third layer in 4, 5, and 6. And then a fourth layer in 5 and 6. And then enough layers that it looks really, really dark in 6. So I'm just going to speed this up so that I don't waste your time and you can focus on doing this yourself. In that last row, you get to practice whatever stroke was the hardest or most difficult for you so that you become more well-versed in that. And that concludes our practice today. And so I hope you enjoyed practicing along with me, and I will see you soon.